It's not enough to just be an architect, a creative professional. The real question is, what are you doing? How are you making an impact if you don't know how to answer that question, or you feel too overwhelmed, stressed out, or burned out to even think about it? I'll help you get beyond the status quo trap in our profession to get inspired again. If you're ready, let's get architecting. Hey, bright lights. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Architecting. My name is Angela, and you know I got your back. And I have to give you all such a huge hug over the airwaves here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are closing in on 300 episodes of Architecting. We are in season 5. And I'm not kidding when I tell you the last 4 or 5 months, I have been flooded with requests to be on the show. That's why I've had so many more guest episodes than usual. And I'm also thrilled to announce that a podcast curating agency called Million Podcasts placed Architecting in their top rankings for 12 different categories, most notably for architecture podcasts, women in architecture podcasts, career podcasts, all top rankings. And that is because you are listening. Also, Build Magazine has given me their annual Best Podcast on Architecture Award for this year, 2025. Thank you, because you listening, you finding value in this content, you telling other people about architecting is what is getting this show and the messages that we all need to hear out there front and center. If you are a listener and a member of this community, you really care about making a difference in the world through the work that you're doing. And what I know is the number one block to that is the stress, overwhelm, and burnout that we just take for granted as normal in our professions as creative people. I'm here to help you overcome all that. There's that saying, if you can name it, you can claim it. When we can recognize the harmful patterns, when we can deliberately put in place better work processes, better thought systems, when we can believe in ourselves and others, when we can be unflinching advocates, that's when we see the shift. And one of the ways that can show up is perfectionism. Perfectionism isn't just this sort of OCD problem that you have. It can show up as competitiveness, as low self-esteem, as a need to have control over everything. If you want to know more about perfectionism and how to overcome it, head on over to architectingpodcast.com. I created this really helpful guide called The Perfectionist Trap. It's an easy read. There's not fluff in there. There's just a calling out of the issues and action steps that you can take. Get it, like I said, on my website, architectingpodcast.com, and start working on this right away. You can download it. Now, it has been a really busy month of May, really busy couple of months, but I did want to share some big wins with all of you. You all know that I am a healthcare architect and that I do research on design for well-being, otherwise known as salutogenesis. And if you want to learn more about that, you can head over to the Architecting YouTube channel. I have developed a whole card deck similar to the tarot. It has both foundational concepts and the 5 aspects of salutogenesis. And every week I draw a card from each part of the deck and talk about those 2 issues. So it's a great way to learn about not only what is salutogenesis, but how does it show up in the way that we approach design. Other good news on the salutogenesis front is that I will be writing a book on this through Lived Places Publishing. On top of that, my son just graduated from high school, which is super exciting. And I'm so proud of everything that he has achieved in the natural leadership and mentorship that he has. And really excited that he is looking forward to a career in music composition. Oh, I know a lot of people might go, Yipes, how do you actually earn a living in that? I really want to say that that's not the right question to ask. The right question to ask is, how do you follow your heart and do what you are called to do? Because when you do that, you will absolutely be successful. It's really exciting to launch him into this next phase of his life. The audio on this is a little echoey. I'm in a hotel room in Santa Fe because I am doing a punch list for a brand new cancer center project that incorporates not only salutogenesis in the design, but health equity. We are partnered up with a great client who is really taking on health equity as part of their mission. And it is exciting to see these projects come up, to see the examples. So if you want to learn a little bit more about the project, I will post some shots on the Instagram. You can check out some of the things that we are doing on the project. I always tell people that I have deliberately engineered my career to pursue my passions because that is really how we have impact. A lot of that comes from having an ask forgiveness, not permission approach where you do what you know needs to be done. It doesn't matter whether somebody is necessarily supporting that, you find a way. You keep looking, you don't stop, even if you can only do one little piece of everything you would like to do on a project or with your research, you find another way. That is why I have this podcast. It's why I am doing these series on my YouTube channel and writing a book is I like to say I just don't shut up about this stuff and I give myself a platform. I don't wait for someone to say, oh, hey, would you like to do this? When I do get an opportunity, I take a look, make sure it's aligned with what I want to do so I don't overcommit, but I never take myself out of the game. If I have the opportunity, I will take it. Another thing that I will do is I will make the time. And I talk about this a lot in my book, Time Builder. We have priorities, and sometimes our priorities are sneaky because what we consciously think we want versus what we're afraid to give ourselves permission to have can be at cross purposes. It's very easy to prioritize what I call the compulsories of life. In your personal life, you have to maintain your home. You have to pay your bills. You have to run errands, right? I mean, it's just very hard to say that you can walk away from anything you don't love. Same thing at work. You're never going to have a job, even if you work for yourself, where you never have to do anything you don't want to do. However, we tend to, out of fear of success, hold ourselves back from making the time and prioritizing the things that really matter to us. As a result, we always take ourselves out of the game. We always say, I'm too busy, and we let the menial task part of life become the star of the show. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about why that isn't a good idea. If you have a task-based view of life, you are always going to feel like a failure because these tasks are never, ever, ever done. No matter how many times you make your bed in the morning, you're always going to have to make it again. No matter how many times at work you respond to your email or clean out your inbox, you're going to have to keep on doing that. No matter how many details you draw, you're going to have to draw more. So you're never going to be done. And therefore, you have this harmful stereotype that you aren't someone who can get things done. And what's worse is we usually don't put constraints on anything that we are adding to this pile of tasks. It feels exhausting. We set ourselves up to be in a state of procrastination that, well, whatever I didn't get to today, we'll just get to tomorrow. And of course, that is going to just keep going on for a million tomorrows if you let it. By doing that, you never free up the space in your calendar to do the things that really matter, because these nagging little activities that in themselves are not really critical. At the end of the day, nobody ever says about their career, I kept my email inbox really lean and mean. That's not how we judge success. That's not what leads to feeling satisfaction. That isn't anybody's purpose in life. Why do we do it? We do it because it doesn't take a lot of courage to do the things that we put on our task lists. They are just the procedural part of life. Yes, they matter, but they also don't require that we make big, bold moves. So we get that little dopamine hit when we accomplish a task that makes us feel like we're being productive. Or we could say, I spent my whole day really busy. I must be productive. And that little dopamine hit keeps rewarding us for playing it safe. The big stuff, the stuff that really matters, well, we're a little afraid of that, right? What will someone think of us? What will happen? What if we fail? So it's very easy when we are in that perfectionist mindset to not be willing to make space for the bigger things that we want to do. It's also why we tend to self-sabotage by not delegating to others. When we're control freaks around the procedural parts of life, we have a built-in excuse why we can never get to the things that really matter. So how can we move past this? One thing you can do is get my perfectionism guide. See how I did that? But let's talk a little bit about specifically the task list. And the first thing that I want you to do is to realize that no matter how busy you are, you can carve an hour out of your day. You can block time in your calendar, and you can schedule in that time work toward a big goal that you have. You might say, what is an hour a day going to do? And my answer is going to be a hell of a lot more than the 0 time that you are giving to it now. Maybe in that hour you read a few articles. Maybe in that hour you reach out to some people in your network. Maybe in that hour you're working on a firm initiative or an initiative within a professional organization. But you're doing something. That is the point. You are moving towards the goal. You are making progress. Every day that you do that, you feel a sense of purpose, of satisfaction that you just don't get with those meager little dopamine hits from, oh, I answered an email, or, oh, I wrote a letter that I needed to write, things like that are just not the things that are related to your bigger purpose. Making that time, making that priority, and an hour a day, trust me, is not taking away from your ability to do all the other things that are part of your life. The other thing I want to talk about that I actually shared in my Space Doctor series that uses the salutogenesis research on YouTube this week is There is something called the Zeigarnik Effect. This is basically the fact that our short-term memory keeps incomplete tasks active. When things are unresolved, they are keeping you in a state of hyper awareness about them, which is really a common device used in any kind of series. It's why we will binge watch something, because we get to the end of an episode and we want more because the story is incomplete. Because our task list is never going to be complete, we aren't careful to harness the Zeigarnik effect, it can keep us stuck along with that dopamine hit, fixated on our to-do list. Instead, through getting the momentum of time blocking, we're going to try to use that effect of what happens next to get us in excited energy instead of hesitation or trepidation for the things we really care about and want to do. So we're not going to let our energy be siphoned off by this fixation on the to-do list. We're instead going to let our energy start to percolate so we can make some real forward progress around things that give us satisfaction and purpose and success on our own terms. By making a little bit of progress every day, our brain naturally wants to go back to where we left off. The other thing is to make time for fun. Creativity happens when we are not exhausted, when we are not depleted and stressed out. It happens when we feel energized. We feel energized, we get into flow state, we produce genius results. We've all felt that at one point or another. And the trick is to do that more often. I hope you can see how beating yourself into submission and never letting yourself have any fun till you've done all of your quote unquote chores for the day is the opposite of joy. Just like it is a horrible disciplinary tactic to tell a child that they can't go out to play until they finish their homework, it's also a horrible disciplinary tactic to use on yourself, that you can't do the things you really love, the things you really enjoy until, because we're never going to get there. The task list is endless. You have to prioritize time for joy. Joy is restorative. It is a critical way that we rest. Think about what brings you joy. Maybe it is taking a nap, reading a good book, walking in the woods, enjoying time with really good friends, going to a museum, watching a movie, whatever it is. It will recharge your creative resources. And when you come back to the other stuff you have to do, you'll be able to power through it a whole lot better. And the last thing I want to leave you with is to build more routine into your life. Structure your day. Have a morning ritual. Build in time to have deliberate, calm activities to start your day. Make regular time for exercise, for enjoying meals, not wolfing them down in front of a TV or a computer while you're trying to work or quote unquote unplug in a way that isn't really restorative. Plan your week out. Put time in there to do some of these activities that you really love, and include quality time with people who bring uplifting energy into your life. When you do that, you have built some structure around your day and around your week that allows you to prioritize well-being, restoration, and you've also rejuvenated your creativity and given yourself time to work on it. Great thing about taking small steps with this is that nothing has to feel too scary or too hard. You are just focusing on what you need to do in the moment, not how it is going to play out 10 steps ahead. A task-filled day versus a purpose-structured day is that when it is a task-filled day, it's kind of like dominoes, and we are constantly worried about what's next. When we structure in purpose, now we are in the moment and we're just worried about whatever we need to do then. That mindfulness, that presence goes a long way to being much more productive. I hope that all of these strategies are helpful to you. I love hearing back from you, knowing what works for you, what things you're already doing. Do you have a great strategy for prioritizing your time so you do more of what you want to do and less of what you have to do? You can let me know by leaving a comment on this podcast. Make sure you also like, rate, and review. It is the best way that you can support the architecting community. I will see you next time. Thanks for listening. If you want even more content, head on over to architectingpodcast.com and subscribe to my newsletter and get some great free downloads while you're there. Be sure to follow me on social media. On Instagram at Architecting Podcast, Facebook and LinkedIn pages are Architecting, and the YouTube channel Architecting Podcast. Stay inspired.